You are in high demand. So it's not like you sitting around marketing. Your presence is marketing enough. When you go somewhere and doing the MDRT, global MDRT in Dubai, heavens, that's a pinnacle of
Well,
success.
and you know,
That's amazing.
Well, thank you. And what's interesting about that is, when you start anyone in any career, you think about what it means to be at the top of your career or what your goals are. And what's interesting is when you fall in love with the process, as we should, which for us, that would be writing our speeches, writing our books, reading news stories and seeing them in a different slant, thinking, I know our audiences are going to be triggered by this new news, but how can we use our platform to take this news that everyone's talking about and make it positive? Because that's what they're depending on us to do. Once you start doing that, all of a sudden, whatever goals you had at the beginning of your career, I remember I had 5 clients I wanted to sign. I'm going to tell you about basketball in a second, but I wanted to sign the NBA as a client because I wanted to play professional basketball. Youth, early on in my life. By the way, the entrepreneurship, just so you know, Jane, the skills were evident. And you could tell I just got a fresh haircut. You want to know why I got a fresh haircut today? Hold on. Oh, well, I'm sorry. Let me make room for the queen. Go ahead. Your hair does look
wait.
Amazing.
This is so sad. I always.
You better leave that on when you talk to me. Huh?
It don't match the face no more.
For those of y'all listening to audio, hey, Jane, listen, you better stop talking about my friend Jane like that. That tiara you just had on your head does match the face. And there's some women who wish they look like you at your age. You still cause some problems for Tom when he comes home at night. All right, listen, we're gonna leave that one alone. Here's what I was saying. Here's what I was saying.
Yeah. But these are the things we do. We challenge ourselves.
We
step out of our comfort zones. I mean,
you have to. But when you fall in love, here's what I was trying to say. When you fall in love with the process of being a professional, there's some people listening to this who may be pastors, school teachers, bus drivers. There's some attorneys who listen to this, doctors. When you fall in love with the personal development aspect of your character first, the personal side, the way it translates to your professional development, as I say to all these, I'll say this as a joke, all these overweight, unhealthy CEOs that I deal with, they're chasing capital. They're so in love with chasing capital so they can continue to return the shareholder dividend share to Wall Street that they forget about character. And here's what I can tell you. Here's my experience in life with every person I've ever had to work with. All the people that I know who've chased capital over character, they found the capital eventually, but it was never enough. And so that's why they're on wife or spouse number 4. That's why they have low relationships with their kids. And that's why my background's in HR. When I was in grad school, we did a study, and this was 18 years ago now. We did a study of CEOs. And Jane, I'm going to ask you to give me a number. I'm going to see how close you get to this. The average, we're just going to go white male CEO when he retires. How long does he live? Give me a number, Jane.
4 years.
4 years? Yeah, that's a pretty good number. This particular study, you ready for this?
Yeah.
9 months.
Oh.
And you know why I think that is? I think
purpose is gone.
So many people, first of all, their purpose is gone. But when you chase capital over character, then the capital can come and go. And customers give you capital. Wall Street can give you capital. But the only problem with people who give you your worth is that they can take it away from you also. And that's why the relationships are in tatters. So I knew at the beginning, I had 5 clients I wanted to sign. I wanted to sign the NBA because I wanted to play professional basketball. I wanted to sign, I had Microsoft, Apple, I think it was GE, and I wanted $1 Million Roundtable. And a few years into my career in our office, we had these plaques made around the office every time I would sign something that was big or unique. Like if it was Harvard or Notre Dame's football team. And let me tell you a secret about Notre Dame. All these other football teams, all right, they may have a Heisman who may have won a Heisman before. Give you a perspective here about Notre Dame's culture of excellence and greatness that I would have never known if I wouldn't have spoke for their team. Notre Dame has a Heisman room to showcase all their Heisman. There's a culture. And so as I'm traveling with all these great companies, I realized something. If I want to be committed as a professional, no matter what my job is, I've got to work on the personal first. and the professional second. And for me, this is a plug for NSA, National Speakers Association. I remember when I first started really becoming a professional speaker, I was hit with a ton of bricks one day when I realized my original goal when I was young was to be in the National Basketball Association, which is the NBA. And I never made it that far. I did play college ball, but today when I tell people I made it to the NSA instead, the National Speakers Association, and I use that story, and people say, well, Morris, how'd you do it? Well, watch this, Jane. My high school team won the state championship my junior year, and I did not get to play in the game for 1 minute. Part of the reason why was the seniors on our team. It was a culture in our school that you don't see the floor until your senior year. We had some really tall kids who were sophomores, like Rashad Kent, who was a monster. He was bigger than everyone on the floor. He got to see the floor as a sophomore. But the rest of us juniors, we didn't get to play. And what does that mean, though? We won a state championship. And when we came back our senior year, we knew that this was going to be our year. I have a chance to be starting point guard. And this is going to be my year. We're going to win back-to-back state championships. And I'm going to ride off with a big college basketball scholarship. Here's exactly what happened. 2 weeks before basketball season started, I felt this gut instinct that talked to me. And by the way, me and my gut, he and I, we have a lot of arguments every now and then. We do. And I tell people, when you go through foster care like I did, and you don't, when I describe my orphan's mindset that I've had when I was young, my premise statement is this. When you go through foster care, you know one thing that no one has to tell you about life, Jane. You know that you are no one's priority. And if you don't come home, no one's looking for you. If you do bad, no one's disappointed. But that also meant when I got straight A's at times and when I did things that allowed me to excel, I had no one to celebrate those things for me like I wanted to. Yeah, I had people in community, but when you don't have a mom and dad, there's that one. So why is that important? My orphan's mindset led me to learn how to trust my gut at a very, very early age. So when I was 10 years old and nobody knew how to cut my hair, Jane, I got a pair of clippers and I started cutting it myself. All the black barbers, they couldn't cut my hair because with me being biracial and having curly hair, nobody knew how to cut it in the hood where I lived at. So then my grandma took me to a white barber. And of course, he didn't know what to do. So I was thinking, if everyone's going to mess my hair up, I might as well be the one to mess it up. So I got a pair of clippers and I started shaving my hair off. But about a year of doing that, I got really comfortable cutting my hair. And about 2 years into that, I was the best. And when I say I was the best, we had a couple barbers where I lived at, and I got so good cutting hair and I had such a client list that by the time I was 15, the doctors, the lawyers, all my basketball team, the little old ladies at church, everyone would come up to me and say, and by the way, I thought it was very feminine and I'm kind of masculine. So I was offended when the little old ladies would come up to me and they say, baby, we heard that you do hair. And Miss Mary Bell Brooks was her name, old lady. And I said, Miss Mary Bell, I do not do hair. And she said, baby, that's too bad because I normally pay $30 plus a tip. I said, hold on. Did I mention I make house calls too? and listen, by the time I was 13, I was already making money cutting hair, but I was shoveling snow and I cut grass in the wintertime. Now I'm going to show you this, Jane. This necklace that I wear is something that's very special to me that I've had made for several people over the years. And this is a dime around my gold necklace. It's a 10-cent piece. Because one of my favorite ancient proverbs in this old proverb book called Malachi 3:10, it says that when you tithe and you give back, it says you will receive such a blessing back to you that you won't even have a storehouse big enough to hold all of the blessings that come your way. I learned at an early age, at age 13, when I started giving of my money that I made myself. I knew when I was very young that I would be wealthy one day. And what does that do for a kid who's orphaned? That meant from that moment on, I was relieved of the pressure of chasing money. So it's like, wait a minute, if I really believed I was going to be wealthy one day, then that means all I have to do is work on my character, do what I'm supposed to do, and the money will come. And let me tell you something. That was all a setup, Jane. My senior year, 2 weeks before basketball, I had this gut instinct that said, psst, hey, Morris, you're not supposed to play basketball this year. You're going to skip your senior season. And then I said, did anybody else hear that voice? Because whatever it was, it must be crazy because I'm about to be the starting behind me. I'm going to be the starting point guard this year. So There's no way I'm going to be able to make it to college on a basketball scholarship if I don't play my senior year.
Right.
But you know what? That voice got louder and louder in that 14-day countdown to tryouts. At the 7-day mark, it was the loudest ever. And let me tell you what, I've not done a lot of things perfect or correct in my life, but there's one thing. There's one thing that I would never do. I would never disrespect myself and not trust my instincts. And let me tell you something. When I went to my coach and I told him I wasn't playing my senior year, he looked at me and he said, "Kid, you'll never go to college and play basketball. What do you mean you're not playing your senior?" And then he asked me a question. He said, "Why aren't you playing?" And you know what, Jane? I didn't have an answer for him. The only thing I knew was I was not supposed to play. And guess what? My friends were mad at me. My best friend was mad at me. This was going to be our year. Don't you know, the season started and a week into basketball season, I'm home doing nothing. I've never not played on my birthday on December 4th. That's always been the time of basketball season. Well, guess what? About a week before my birthday, my driver's ed teacher, see, this is where God will show up in your life.
Yes.
My driver's ed teacher said, "Morris, you need to stay after class. I need to talk to you, son." And, you know, I was chasing the girls and doing everything. So I was a class clown and I thought I was in trouble for certain. He held me after class and I said, his name was Joe Cavalier. I said, "Yes, Mr. Cavalier." He said, "Son, this is going to sound strange, but I'm supposed to choose one student in this entire school to send to this state student leadership conference about being a good teenager and having great leadership skills." And he said, "For some reason, I feel like God is telling me I'm supposed to choose you."
Oh, wow.
And I looked at him and I said, "Absolutely not." He said, "Excuse me?" I said, "I don't want to go to some stupid leadership conference." And I lied. I said, "Plus, I've got basketball practice anyway." And he looked at me and he said, "Don't you lie to me. I already talked to your coach." He said, "You're going." And I was so mad because there's about 1,000 kids at this conference. I'd never been before, so I was insecure. I'm missing basketball, and I'm still feeling insecure about that decision I made. And I showed up kicking and screaming at this stupid leadership conference. When I got there, I was pissed off until I walked in the room. And when I walked in the room, Jane, I saw how many beautiful girls were there. And I was like, wait a minute. I like leadership. I like leadership.
You want me to do your hair?
You want me to do your hair? I have my clippers with me. And you know what, Jane? Can I tell you what? I was selected. You ready for this? Out of 50 seniors there to be the main MC and the main host on stage for 3 days in a row. And I thought they played a trick on me. So I was quite pissed off about it because we all know that public speaking is the #1 fear in this world. And on the first day I went on stage, I was throwing up. I was backstage. They had cold rags on my head.
Whoa.
And I thought I was going to die. By the second day, I was throwing up even worse, but I survived. And you know what happened on the third day?
You feel
my
good.
Little legs that you see when a deer is born or a baby horse and it can't walk. I got my legs by the third day. And at the end of the day, I had people who knew me, both adults and people in high school my age, who said, "Hey, kid, I don't know what that was that you just did, but we've never seen that before. And you have a gift and you should really consider this for a living." I knew at age 17 that I would be a professional speaker and write books for the rest of my life.
Oh, my goodness.